Welcome back to TADA3D Printing. It's finally time to test out the difference between the 0.6 nozzle and the 0.4 nozzle. So I ran this Benchy again. I made sure to update the firmware and the slicer. Everything is the most recent. And I just wanted a baseline with the 0.6 nozzle. So I am going to run this structural because I want to make sure that I am seeing that it's not just speed, that it is actually input shaping 0.6 nozzle. It is a little irritating that when I align it and then slice it, for some reason my print tower is too far back, so I have to move that forward. But once I've got that figured out and reslice this print is going to be 1 hour and 23 minutes. So in my previous video, I showed swapping out the nozzles on Toolhead 4 and 5. And I actually recorded this video before that because I wanted to use the same toolheads both times. 4 and 5, this one's 0.6, then I went through and changed out the nozzle because I wanted the very minimum amount of changes. I also ran this with the default temperatures, which is on 0.6, it says it's 215 on the first layer and 205 on the other layers. I was not expecting this to look good. It's fine, but there is a lot of stringing and there is some spots where it's just kind of rough and where it's even pulled into, especially on the inside, you can see some spots where the black pulled into the white. So this is kind of my base comparison. And let's see if by switching to the 0.4 nozzle that I get less stringing. And the build tower looks pretty good. On the back it looks a little bit rough. Looks like maybe the seams are a little funny. But other than that, it turned out okay. Okay, so I'm back in Slicer and I have to add the additional preset of the 0.4 nozzle. I am going to run it as input shaper as well, but I didn't have that set up, so I have to go through all the steps to do that. My tower looks a little bit different and I noticed that it did realign, which is fine, but then again when I go to slice it, it's saying that it's going to be outside the print bed. This is the tiniest print ever, so I don't know why it can't seem to align. I have to rearrange my tower again, but I've got it sliced. This, of course, will take a little bit longer with the 0.4 nozzle, so it went from 1 hour 23 minutes to now being 1 hour 28 minutes. But it did go down a little bit on the filament used. The 0.6 nozzle was going to be 23.19 grams, and this one is 20.68 grams. I sliced it with just the extruder 1 and 2 showing as my defaults because I would go in and just change it when I get to this next screen. But when I get there, I do see that it says mismatching of the nozzle diameters, which makes sense because it's trying to default it to 1 and 2, which are showing that I have a 0.6 nozzle. So I just have to go through and say, no, I really want 4 and 5 and replace it. Now it's saying ready to print. So it's interesting that it can tell, of course I told it, but it can tell which nozzles and it does give you a little reminder. So I get this printing. I was a little bit nervous at first that maybe I flipped my 4 and 5 because I was just keying those in, but it does look like it's printing the same. The white is the first thing that's printing, so it will match with my other one. So the main thing that I'm looking for is to be able to print full temperature, regular temperature with less stringing. And I would say it is a little bit better, but the downfall is that the black has just kind of rubbed into or streaked into the white. You can see a little dot on the front of the window, and behind it, it's almost just like it looks, I don't know, it just looks messier. It does look more detailed, like on the very trim on the front of the boat. It looks a little better on the left. On the 0.6, it's a little bit above that window. It's hanging a little bit, but I'm just not happy with the streaking. Both of these Benchies were printed with default temperature settings, so I decided to go back into the 0.4 nozzle and see if maybe I should lower the temperature again, because I did seem like I had gotten better luck at 190, 180 with the 0.6 nozzle, and I'm shocked to see that the default is 230 and 220. That's really hot. So I'm going to just kind of split the difference and do 210 and 205. I get this printing again, go through the same setup, of course, again, of the Toolhead 4 and 5, and I come back because I think that the print finished. This is several hours later. I come back and I just grab it off the print bed because I thought it was done, and turns out it didn't print the little chimney. And I'm looking at this, it still looks actually even worse than before. There's even more streaking at this temperature. It looks even worse on the back of that door. But I'm trying to figure out what happened that it didn't print that chimney. And then I look down at the screen and it says that the heating was disabled. So I don't know if it clogged or what happened. I'd already pulled it off the bed, so it's not like I can really continue the print, but it almost seems like it was printing too cool for the temperatures, which sounds crazy. It doesn't look like the filament broke or, ran out on either the black or the white. And when I look inside, it looks like, it didn't pull out. It's not like there's something broken or anything. So I don't know what happened, but clearly this isn't going to work either. So I got on Prusa chat and explained that I went from stringing with the 0.6 nozzle to still some stringing and now streaking. And they said that I needed to increase my maximum ramping lift to 2 and my retraction length to 1. So I click over in Slicer to do this and realize that it goes by individual extruders. And since I had been swapping between 1 and 2 to 4 and 5, I decided that I need to go back and just change my default to be 4 and 5 just to make sure that I don't have any issues with that. And then I go in and change the settings that Prusa Chat had recommended, and I am glad that they gave me something really specific. When I had talked to them before, they had said lower the temperature, up the retraction, but it was very vague. This is telling me exact numbers to put in, so at least I have something a little more concrete that I can go with, and I have to do this for both 4 and 5. And then I move my purge tower, slice it, and we're ready to go. This starts printing, and I do keep an eye on it to make sure that, again, that I had the colors correct. I don't really want to have them flipped. I want them to print the same way as before. And this looks good, and the white seems to be printing fine, even though I have had issues with white on other prints. So everything looks good on this so far. But when I come back, again, I don't have a chimney, and I don't have a screen that said heater timed out or anything. It just thinks it printed and didn't, even though I did run this back at the regular default temperatures again. And this looks even, I feel like it looks worse. The stringing might be a tiny bit better, but it looks like that streaking on the front part, in front of the door on this left side, even behind it, does not look good. It looks worse than before. And also on the front of the bow there too. So it almost even looks like the white is a little bubbly on the inside. I'm almost wondering if I need to go the opposite way with the retraction. I'm a little stumped at this point. I feel like I'm going to probably have to get on Prusa Chat again because I'm just kind of sick of trying to experiment on my own. I'm a little frustrated. I feel like I've had this printer for almost 2 months now, and I have some other ones that have printed okay, but it just seems like anything small, I cannot get the stringing down, or if I do, then I under extrude. And I know that a lot of people have said that the 0.4 nozzle or different things, upgrading to the newest slicer has helped them. And I'm glad that it did work for them. I'm really surprised that it seems like I've heard so many different things were the fix. So it seems like there is a lot of variance in these machines. And I don't really feel like I've really improved it just by changing the retraction. So I'm going to have to really think about what's the next steps for sure. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching.